Hollywood is boycotting Russia. Sam Elliott is under fire. CODA gains Oscar momentum. Pamela Anderson's getting a documentary. And The Batman finally hits theaters.
It's all coming up right now on The Take. Hey everyone, and welcome to The Take. I'm Elizabeth Wagmeister.
And I'm Clayton Davidson. We're here to give you our take on some of the week's biggest stories. Big week, big events happening. We are having a very interesting time in Hollywood.
Yes, we are having an interesting time in Hollywood, but also a crucial and heartbreaking time in the world as Ukraine has been invaded by Russian military forces by Putin. Hollywood is taking a very strong stance by withholding many theatrical releases in Russia. This includes Disney, Sony, Warner Brothers, Netflix, the list goes on and on. Now, this is a big deal, and this is really where we see Hollywood at its best, using its power to take back its power and say, we're not going to be releasing our films even if we're going to miss out on money. Now, first of all, I do want to say this isn't about money. This is about humanity. Yeah. And that's first and foremost. But we do have to look at Hollywood as a business. And Russia is not the biggest territory. This isn't China that we're talking about when it comes to a release. But when you have Warner Brothers pulling the release this week of a film like Batman, which stands to make hundreds of millions of dollars around the world, a territory like Russia does matter. You know, for Spider-Man, it made $44 million in Russia last year. And also, the Motion Picture Association has also stood behind Ukraine, releasing a statement in part saying, "We express our strongest support for Ukraine's vibrant creative community who, like all people, deserve to live and work peacefully." Clayton, what is your take on all of this?
I think it's important that the entire community, world, global, Hollywood, everyone stands with Ukraine. It's horrible what's happening there. And what we saw this week with the presidential State of the Union address, it was very measured from President Joe Biden. I think we are seeing a possibility of some really hard days ahead, and we have to continue to amp up pressure so we can help that part of the world, because it is pretty awful right now.
Absolutely. And also, you know, of course, standing with Ukraine, but I also do want to give a shout out to our fellow journalists who are on the ground in the country reporting live. It looks terrifying. It's a very scary situation. So everybody stay safe, and you are in our hearts.
Yep. And we're going to switch gears now, because this weekend we had the Screen Actors Guild Awards. The winners were all announced, where Apple's CODA made history, becoming the first film with a predominantly deaf cast to win the top award for cast ensemble. Also, Troy Kotsur winning Best Supporting Actor, the first deaf actor to ever win a SAG Award. If that repeats at the upcoming Academy Awards, he will be the second in history to win an acting prize, second to his co-star Marlee Matlin when she won for 1986's Children of a Lesser God. This is huge momentum right now for CODA moving forward. This race and every race for the past few years has been what streamer is going to get there first, win Best Picture at the Oscars. And I don't know if we ever really considered that Apple was going to be the one to do it, but they have huge momentum on their side, winning SAG. PGA is coming up. They're going to win Writers Guild more than likely. This is a big moment for them. And it would also be very historical besides the deaf cast. The film would be the first one in history to not be nominated in any below the line categories and win Best Picture. It'll be the second film to win without a DGA nomination since Driving Miss Daisy. All the stats are going to fall this year, maybe.
Yes, and there is, as you said, a ton of momentum for Apple. That CODA really very much is in the Best Picture conversation now. I have to say my take on this is CODA is actually my favorite film of this season. So I loved it, and I think that Troy Kotsur is really the success story and the happy story of Oscar season and award season that we all want to hear. And with so much going on in the world, it's really nice to see a moment like this.
Yeah, you can't help but love them. And listen, they have huge competition still. Netflix's Power of the Dog is still very much in this, as this focus features Belfast. So we'll see what happens.
Yes, but speaking of Power of the Dog, there was a crazy story this week. Can you please bring us up to speed, Clayton?
There you go. There's our transition. Oscar nominee Sam Elliott came under fire this week for his criticism of Jane Campion's The Power of the Dog, criticizing the homosexual themes depicted in the film, along with the filming locations, as it takes place in Montana, but was filmed in New Zealand. People were not very happy about this, and now it brings about a really interesting callback that I'm remembering when Brokeback Mountain in 2005 open Academy members, and Sam Elliott is a member of the Academy, criticizing the gay cowboy movie and saying that that's not how cowboys are, and actively and outwardly saying they were voting for something else, and that was Crash, and Crash ultimately won Best Picture. So it just shows that that conservative voice in Hollywood that we think, everyone thinks it's all liberals and everyone's all happy here. It's not always the case, and we still have some really big problems here.
It'll be interesting to see if or how he walks that back, but let's move on because Pam Anderson is taking her own story into her own hands on the heels of Pam and Tommy, which is a huge hit on Hulu, while Pamela Anderson is now getting her own documentary on Netflix. So Pam, she actually announced this herself with a handwritten note on her Instagram account. She said that there have been years and years of misconceptions of her, and now she is going to tell her own story. Her son, Brandon, is going to serve as a producer on this documentary. And other than that, we don't really have any details about the creative direction, but here is my hunch on that. I think that we don't have a lot of details of the creative because I am betting you that Netflix, on the success of Pam and Tommy, went to Pam and said, this seems like a good time for you to tell your story. And we have seen Netflix do this before where they act very quick, they react to news or something that's happening in the cultural zeitgeist, and they make a project happen. So I, for one, am really happy that we are going to see Pam get to tell her own story. But I do want to say Pam and Tommy over at Hulu, it is critically acclaimed. Everybody loves it. And everyone involved with that series did say that they tried to reach out to Pam, but I think the point to take away here is even if they reached out for her participation, they were already making this project.
Yeah, and I think what we're going to see now is, like you said, she gets to tell her own story. Her not doing any interviews, didn't even watch the trailer, according to a source, for Pam and Tommy. So everyone should have the opportunity to say their own version of events. And we don't know if it's even going to follow the tape or if it's before or after, but I'm excited for it and we'll see what it brings.
Yes, no, good for her. And speaking of women telling their stories, Evan Rachel Wood, who has spoken out about her ex Marilyn Manson, well, she has just been hit with a defamation suit from the musician. So we'll see what happens there. That story is developing. But it's Friday, so we've got to talk about the biggest film that is hitting theaters this weekend. I'm talking about The Batman, of course, starring Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz. Now, the film is nearly 3 hours, but people don't seem to mind. It's getting rave reviews, including from our very own Clayton Davis. I'm very jealous that you saw it. I have not seen it yet, and a lot of our colleagues, they were at the premiere in New York this week. But I think the most interesting part to come out of this Batman news is that AMC has announced that they are going to be charging more for tickets of this film than other films that are playing in AMC theaters. Now, The Batman is predicted to make at least $100 million just this opening weekend. So obviously AMC sees that they're going to get theater goers. Maybe this is a way to save theaters.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing is they don't have an opportunity to play this maybe 6 times in a day because it's 3 hours, because of the runtime. They have less opportunity. So I can see this maybe becoming a future model for many movies moving forward. When it comes to The Batman itself, I like the movie. It's very ambitious. Matt Reeves, who's best known for doing the Planet of the Apes trilogy, which I love and adore. This is a very ambitious outing. Robert Pattinson makes a great Batman. A little bit of an emo Bruce Wayne for my liking, but Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, especially as the Riddler, shines. Jeffrey Wright is fantastic as Gordon, and we don't see Batman's parents die, which is the best part. We are right just in the thick of it. It is fun stuff. I liked it.
Well, there's a lot to talk about. I can't wait to see The Batman. I'm sure a lot of you are as well. And make sure to join us, as always, here every Friday on The Tape.
Thanks for watching.